those of you who got an invite, welcome to Nerd Prom.
No matter
Alright, YouTube, it's Mr. Mean coming at you from sunny, actually it's dark outside, Beaumont, Texas. It's currently almost 8 o'clock Sunday evening. We've had a fantastic weekend. It was my father-in-law's birthday, and so we went and spent the day with him. We watched the Saints beat the Detroit Lions, a crazy, crazy game. It was a fun day, so good time had all the way around. So anyway, it's October, it's Halloween, it's scary time. Etten Games is doing another RPG day. Etten Games, for those of you that don't know, is based out of Humboldt, Texas, which is about an hour and a half from Beaumont. And they've invited me to come and run some more games again for them. So today's video du jour, CJ Carella's Witchcraft. This is published by Eden Studios, the same guys that make All Flesh Must Be Eaten, Fantasy Age game engine, or Age, or the adventure game engine, Age. Same guys that also do Dragon Age, so it's all the same guys. George Valikos is the brain trust behind it. This was done... 1999. This is a blast from the past. This is old school here. I didn't think that would be that old school. Alex Yerkat used to be, or Jerkat, I'm not quite sure how he says it. I think I'm not sure if he's still with Eden or not, or if he's moved on to other things. I don't know. But I got George and Alex to sign my book at Gen Con that year. They actually pretty much paid for me to go to Gen Con. I think I paid my airfare, and they put me in a hotel, and they paid my entrance to Gen Con, and I got to run demos. I had also done some work on Buffy, the Vampire Slayer, and I had also done some work on All Flesh Must Be Eaten and Terra Primate, which was all three of their games during that Buffy era. I also did some play testing, and I actually wrote a one-shot adventure for Armageddon, which was CJ Carella's next version of this game, which was the end times are coming and everything's going to hell in a handbasket, modern time game. But that is neither here nor there. Today's video du jour, we're highlighting Witchcraft. This is a self-contained book. This is all you need. There's, I think, 1 or 2 source books out for it, and there's also a GM screen. The cool thing about this is, if this video intrigues you, if you're like, ooh, Witchcraft, occult role-playing game, Call of Cthulhu Light, easy rule system, good arcade post art, this game currently on DriveThruRPG, and I'll put a link down in the show notes, is free. You can download this for free from RPG, DriveThruRPG or RPG Now. So again, it's free. It normally retails for $35. It's hardback. The art is consistent throughout the book. It's all black and white, but you got some really cool art like that. That is neat. There's some alternate mechanics for this. There's a bunch of pre-generated characters in here. We've got some awesome RK post art. In fact, there's one right there, which is pretty cool, kind of a druid. So the art is all black and white. There's no color pieces in here, but the art is extremely consistent throughout this. It's very dark. It's not morbid. It's very dark. There's this guy's art as well. I think Sam. I don't remember his name. I'll see if I can find it here real quick in the credits. I think it's Dan Smith. I think that's his art. So this game provides archetypes, which are the pre-made characters, and it will allow you to jump in and play really quick. So the neat thing about this game is it's very easy system. It's one of my, before I found Savage Worlds, this was my go-to system. I ran Witchcraft a lot or Armageddon, because it was a really easy game system. And so This game uses, you have 6 major attributes: strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, perception, and willpower. And then you have secondary attributes that are built off of those, which is your life points, your endurance points, your speed, and your essence pool. If you want to do magic or psychic powers, which this game abounds, you need essence. That's what they call mana, for lack of a better word, power points, whatever you want to call it. This is an advantage, or I should say qualities and drawback game, very similar to Savage Worlds. You get X amount of points to build your character, and those points, depending on how many you get, will dictate whether you're mundane, lesser gifted, gifted, or psychic. And then you go from there. And then with those points, you build your character. And then one of the other interesting character classes in this game is the Bast. And if you're thinking Egyptian cat people, you are spot on. This is basically uplifted cats that have in human form, and they have basically some powers, and they are basically cats, or they're were-cats, I guess, is the quickest way to say. They don't necessarily shapeshift, but they have all the abilities and provocations of cats. So yeah, they toy with you before they kill, that kind of thing. But they are a player character, and it's very cool. This is Witches of Eastwick. If you like that movie and you wanted to run it as an RPG session, you could totally do it with this. The adversaries in the game are there's a bunch in the back, and they're very well done. There's everything from demons to cults. If you like running your Cthulhu type games and you want to play something different, this is a really good genre or type of game for you to jump through. There's a government agency called the Combine out there, and they know about the gifted and the lesser gifted and the Bast and the psychics, which is I guess your 4 main character classes. Mundanes are just people that know about it but have no special power, but they may be really good martial artists, or warriors, or maybe librarians or whatever, and they do research, whatever. They help out in some way, shape, or form, or they're protectors, whatever you want. There's no disadvantage to playing a mundane as opposed to playing a lesser gifted or a gifted character per the rules. In fact, mundanes get more points to build. They just can't buy powers. That's not to say that later on down the line in the game they could take an advantage, a quality that would allow them to cast spells. And that's the cool part about the game. So players can grow and progress. And basically the way the mechanics work is it's a stat and a skill and a 1d10. If you get a 9 or better, you succeed. If that sounds familiar and you're a grognard like me, that's because it's pretty much the same system as Cyberpunk. A stat, a skill, and a 1d10. If you're doing something like, say, purely based off of strength or purely based off of willpower, it depends on if it's a simple task or a difficult task. If it's a simple task, and say it's strength, you're trying to lift a big rock, you would double your attribute. Say you have a strength of 4, you would double it to an 8 if it was a simple task, and then you'd roll a 1d10, and if you got a 9 or better, plus or minus difficulties that the GM would assign, then you would either succeed or fail. They do use margins of success, and it's I believe it's every 3 levels. So 9, 10, 11 would be level 1 success, and then 12, 13, 14 is 2, and so on and so forth. And that factors into combat. Combat is pretty cool. One of the things I like about this is they give you a lot of modern day weapons and some medieval, because obviously you got witches and warlocks running around. Why wouldn't you have swords, right? So there's swords and guns and nightsticks and improvised weapons. And the nice part is, for a GM who wants to run a low dice rolling game, which is the kind of games I like to run. I don't like to chuck a lot of dice. I like to tell a story. One of the neat things is they give you the base damage of the weapon. So say the base damage weapon is a D4 plus strength times 2. So, and your strength is, so half of a d4 is 2. So it's 2 times your strength times 2. It's not very hard. It's quick math. You'll belt it out in no time. The nice part about this is for things like guns that do, like let's say you have a 38, and I think a 38 is a d6 times 2. That's it. So normally you would roll a d6, multiply that by 2, and that's how much damage it would do. And if you had armor, whatever your armor was, say you had you had a leather jacket, which is 2 points of armor, you would subtract 2 from that total. So if we rolled a 3 on our 6, 3 times 6, or 3 times 2 is 6, minus 2 for our armor, 4 points of damage get through, and you would mark that off of your health. Your life points is basically your hit points. But what they do instead for static weapons, so like that 38 weapon, they would just give you, your d6 parentheses 2 times 2. So they would say the damage is 4. So it's static. You don't need to keep rolling. If you fire off 3 rounds, you don't need to roll 3 times. It's 6 points of damage each shot that hits. And then you go from there, and then you subtract the opponent's armor, and you go from there. So it's a very static armor, and I like that. So, and if you're using a weapon, a melee weapon, and you have a dagger, let's say, or you have a sword, and it's a D8, and it'll say parentheses 4 times 2, just for argument's sake, or maybe it's a katana, so it might be D8 parentheses 4 times 4, and then it'll say equals 16. And therefore the damage is 16 on that sword. You don't have to keep rolling those dice, or whatever your strength modifier is would add in there as well. So let's just say, for argument's sake, it'll be D8 parentheses 4 times strength. Let's say your strength is a 4. So then it'll go there. So 4 times 4 is 16. That when you swing your sword, you're doing 16 points of life points to whatever you hit, or damage. Because you may be attacking a door, and the doors don't have life points. But anyway, you get the idea. And so that's the cool part of the game. This is what a character sheet looks like. It's pretty simple. You can download it off of Eden's website. If you are going to be in the Humble area over the weekend, next Saturday, I will be there. We are starting at 10 o'clock. I will have a table probably with 6 to 8 players available, and we're going to run a Halloween-themed horror game, and we'll have some witchcraft. Usually you start your players off in a coven, and it's modern day. The bad guys are the Combine. They know about witchcrafts, or they're starting to know. It depends on where in your timeline of your world you set the occurrences of this. They can either full-blown know about it, or they're just now finding out about it. And they're basically, the Combine is basically, for lack of a better word, the FBI. And they're coming after you, and so it's a good game. It's a good setting, because not only do the players strive to be the good guys, and you can be a necromancer. The nice part about this, and don't let the title worry you. Oh, it's witchcraft, it's demons, and my kid's going to be summoning demons. No, these are good witches for the most part. They just use witchcraft as the term because that's the vernacular. And it's a witch or a warlock, but even men can be witches. They're very open-ended about it. And the nice part is necromancy is not something to be feared. Like in D&D, 9 out of 10 times, anything that goes necromancy goes evil. And it's not necessarily the case in the game Witchcraft by C.J. Carella. Necromancers speak with the dead. They get the ability to talk with the afterlife and learn things. And it's only when they start using the powers for evil, or they start doing bad things, working with demons and monsters and other evil people, that they turn evil. So it's a game about choices, and I like that. I like that in a role-playing game. I like the fact that you as the player determine, are you a good guy or are you a bad guy? How do you use your power? So almost like a superhero game. To be honest, it is very much like a superhero game, because you can do kind of cool things with witchcraft and the powers that obviously you couldn't do in a normal, setting, obviously, normal setting in the world. The nice part is, this isn't a game where you're slinging fireballs. You can do that. It's not as easy as it sounds. So one of the examples they give in the book is, instead of trying to sling a fireball, which is going to take you more time to gather the essence and create the fireball and sling it, set the person's hair on fire. It's still fire. If you're able to manipulate fire, set their hair on fire, set their jacket on fire. Really hard to shoot a gun if you're on fire. Let's face it, and this game uses heavy use of fear mechanics. And you can literally freeze up. You can go catatonic if you flub a fear roll. And I really like the fear rules. They're very well written. They make sense. The overall rules of this game make sense. They use endurance points as well. I do not. Basically, endurance is a buffer of hit points before you start taking life points. To me, that takes some of the lethality out of the game, and I like the lethality in it. So basically, in the game as written, if I was to hit you with a baseball bat, that's bashing damage. Unless I get a critical hit to your head or an unarmored section, I would do life point damage. But if I hit you and you're wearing a leather jacket and your jacket absorbs some of it, it's most likely going to be endurance damage. If you're casting too many spells or you're running for a long time, that's endurance damage. And so when that's depleted, then you start taking life points. That doesn't work for me. A, it's too much bookkeeping, and B, to me, it's not realistic for my style of play. I would rather, most player characters start off with a healthy chunk of life points, because part of being gifted or lesser gifter or a bast is that you can even play a zombie in this game if you really wanted to. They have secondary mechanics for it. You could come back as an undead serving a necromancer and so on and so forth. But the cool part is you player characters, like some of these starting characters have like 40-50 life points. I think the mundane guy is like around 36 if I remember correctly. So it's a lot of life points. Now granted, shotgun to the chest going to probably take a good portion of that life point away from you, but that's realistic, because in real life, if I shoot somebody in the chest with a shotgun at point blank range, odds are, if they're not wearing some type of really good body armor, they're going to intensive care and or they're not living, period. So I like the lethality. I like the realism, even though we're talking about a very make-believe world. Witchcraft is not real. This is a game. Anybody who's new to my channel knows that I'm a huge fan of role-playing games, and that's what this channel is about. So it's not about summoning demons and infesting your soul. This is a game just like Parcheesi or Checkers, or Chutes and Ladders, or House on the Hill. It's just a game that has a theme of magic, and they call this magic witchcraft, and it's modern day. So we don't call it sorcery, although there are sorcerers in here, and that goes a little deeper into the game. So the point is, this is a blast from the past. It's a good game. It's well written. It's well illustrated. RK Post, for those that don't know, did a lot of art for Vampire the Masquerade. So if you're into that dark art and you like RK Post's art, there's a lot of it in here. So that alone is worth a free download to me, because his art is phenomenal. I really dig his art. So again, it's free. It's Drive-Thru RPG. I'll put a link to Drive-Thru's website. I don't know how long it's going to be on there for free. I would imagine for the whole month of October, it's going to be free. I spoke with George via texting, and he never said when it was coming down or if it was or wasn't. So maybe it just might be a freebie. If you want to buy it or you want to pick it up, a physical copy, you could probably find it on Amazon or, Lulu Press or whatever for relatively cheap. But it's a great game. It's very well written. The art is fantastic. It's consistent. And even to this day, I mean, it's 99. It's a 18-year-old game. It holds up well. It plays well. It's modern day. There's cell phones. I mean, I think they may make a reference to pagers in there, but it's easy enough to swap out cell phone for pager, so to speak. And, cars everything that's in the modern world is easy enough to adapt to the current current situation, and you should have no problems. So that's Mr. Mean's take on Witchcraft. Awesome game. I will be running it at Etten Games next Saturday, the 21st, in Humboldt, Texas, at Etten Games. Be a part of the tribe. And we'll have a lot of fun. So if you can make it, great. If you can't, I hope you enjoyed the review. As always, peace and hair grease. And remember, be nice.